And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. You know, I'm wondering, where's the excitement for new tech, right? And what's really exciting? What truly exciting products are coming out at home for home use, right? It's seems like we're sort of in a period of iteration, a lot of just kind of the same stuff, just with bigger numbers, right? I mean, does anybody really care about the next gen iPhone or the next Android phone? Whether it's Samsung or the Google Pixel or anything like that. Does anybody? Is it? I mean, sure, there are people like, "Ooh, numbers go up. I must have." But is there anything really exciting about most of these things? Uh, Same with computers, actually. Okay, you can get bigger storage, faster CPUs, right? Are going up, right? Computers are getting better, but it's just sort of an iteration, right? The Even like the video cards, right? Nvidia dropped their 5000 series cards here recently, and yeah, they're faster than the 4000, but not significantly faster. I just remember seeing a few articles. It's like, yeah, rather than get the low end 5000, you get the high end 4000 series for cheaper, and you get better performance, right? Because there was an overlap in the performance of the generations, and it just didn't make sense. Okay. Um, Gaming consoles. Okay. Now the Switch was relatively groundbreaking. Okay. Yeah, Nintendo had been making a portable console, or I guess a handheld, for a while, right? Because they started with the Game Boy, right, and then you go through the various iterations of DS and 3DS and all of that stuff, right? And then they dropped the Switch. The Switch was it was amazing, for one thing, because it showed that you could have a portable gaming system that wasn't limited to low end games or phone games, right? You're not just going to sit here and play Angry Birds. You can play something really impressive like Breath of the Wild or Mario Kart or anything, those things. No, they weren't. The Switch was not playing the really high end games. But the reality is, most people didn't need those, right? And now you've got the Switch 2 coming out very soon. And it's cool. It's good, nice to have. I mean, the magnetic attaching controllers may or may not be an issue. But now it's sort of, yeah, been there, done that. Now let's add a 2 to it, right? Sort of the complaints you get about sequels in the 80s, right? I don't know, cloud gaming, maybe? Now, Google tried that with Stadia. And honestly, I think Stadia was ahead of its time. I think it was an excellent idea that just that hit too soon. I don't think internet capabilities were quite there to really make Stadia shine. Okay. But they're not the only ones playing with it. I think Nvidia does have a cloud gaming system. Sony has been playing with it some on the PlayStation. Forgot what they called it, but it's not something that really gets advertised a lot. Now, and honestly, I think cloud gaming would be exciting, but again, you still have issues. I guess it's more dependent on what's happening with your internet service, and that makes it somewhat unreliable as a gaming platform. So yes, it's kind of cool, but it's just not there. All right. I think you look at things like VR. Uh, is VR more than just an expensive niche? I mean, is it? For people that really have time or even want to lock themselves into VR goggles for a couple of hours or multiple hours at a time. Yeah, I guess, but there aren't that many people that want to do that, right? Somebody was asking a while back, so why isn't this taking off? In homes, it's like, well, if you're an adult with a parent of young children, you can't lock yourself into a VR world, okay? Because you have to be actively aware of what's going on. And honestly, for me, I want my kids to see what I'm playing most of the time. No, in all seriousness, I want my kids to see what I'm playing because I want to build that hype. I want to build that love of gaming, right? I want to share that with them, and VR is not a shared experience, right? For good or for ill, it's not. That's not what it is. So yeah, VR is cool, and there are definitely people using it, but it's not the second coming of gaming nirvana or something. It's just sort of, it's an expensive toy. It's like those people who buy the HOTAS sticks and stuff for flight sims, which I would totally be one of those people if I were playing flight sims regularly. They're awesome. They're great. They're immersive, I suppose, but they just aren't. They're not this big thing that everybody has to have. Okay. Even something like a smartwatch. Okay. And I love smartwatches. I have, this Samsung watch, which was great until the battery became garbage. And I just never got around to trying to replace it. And then I wear a Fitbit, which I guess is a smartwatch. But I think it's indicative of what's happening with smartwatches. Is most of them are pretty much just fitness trackers with extra features. Okay. Now, sure, there's some. I think that the iWatch or the Apple Watch, whatever they call it, it tries to be more than a fitness tracker. But I think most of what people use it for are the fitness tracking capabilities, right? And I said I loved my smartwatch for the fitness stuff, obviously, because my robust physique shows how much I like to exercise and stuff. No, no, it was nice. I liked getting alerts and stuff on my watch instead of, well, in addition to my phone, I guess. So when I got a text, I could just look at my watch and see that, hey, okay, I had a text. This is important. This isn't. I don't have to pull my phone out of my pocket. Okay. That's awesome. Love that. But smartwatches have been around for a long time now. And a new smartwatch it's just not splashy, right? It's like, oh, okay. Sometimes there's a feature that people like, right? And like with phones you'll get, oh, it's a better camera or something, right? But they're just not, there's nothing really that gets everybody hyper excited about these things. Now, there are some things coming out that look like they could be cool. Some of them, I admit, are going to be a bit niche. But I think they might actually start pushing into that, this is really exciting territory. So the first thing is augmented reality, okay? Rather than VR, which locks you into your goggles, AR wants to keep you present in the world, okay? Now, I think this is going to fall squarely into the awesome but niche category, okay? Because frankly, the battery life on these things sucks, right? You get those that are basically just glasses, right? Which is cool. They look like glasses, but you look at a pair of glasses, there just isn't enough battery space there. Okay, and if you start putting too much battery there, they get heavy and uncomfortable to wear for a long time. Okay, so that kind of sucks. So what I've seen recently, Apple's got their VR or their AR headset. Actually, I might have been more accurate the first time. They call it an AR headset, but it's completely solid. You put it on and it's black. I mean, it blocks everything. You can't see through it. It uses cameras so that you can see the world around you and then project on that. I did see a pair of augmented reality glasses that I thought was really cool. Rather than being an independent device, they did use a wired connection to your computer, whether it's a laptop or the video I saw it on. The guy had a pocket computer, I think is what he referred to it as. Imagine it's like having a box not much bigger than your cell phone that's just a computer, and then you can plug in. He was able to plug in the his glasses through, I don't know, I don't remember if it was USB-C or micro HDMI, something like that, but that became the screen for the computer. And then he had a physical computer that he could set up to actually type. It's like a 60% keyboard and mouse. And that was really cool. If you're the type who has to do a lot of computing on the go, laptops are great, but for everything except actually using them, okay? The ergonomics of a laptop is horrific. Usually the keyboards are not good, and they're never at a place that's comfortable to both see the screen and use the keyboard at the same time, okay? Unless you are just the perfect size and the table is just the perfect height, it rarely works because you end up looking down at the screen, and often the keyboard is small and forces kind of bad ergonomics on you as you try to type on it for a long time. Not great, but having the AR glasses where you could either, if you're at home, turn it up to full opacity so the screens that are projected block out everything. Or, so the video I was watching on some of this stuff was like, no, if I'm on an airplane, I dial the opacity down so I can see through and see what's going on and still work. And it was wonderful for use on an airplane, where even if you have a laptop, trying to work on one of those little tiny trays is hard. Okay, it just doesn't work. So that's really cool. I don't think it's going to get out of the niche category, but it's awesome. The thing that everyone talks about with augmented reality, the idea that you might have sort of a personal heads-up display, I don't know that that's ever going to be a thing. Okay? I mean, we've got a whole generation of people who've grown up playing video games where you have a HUD of some sort, right? You've got a map in the corner and you've got little highlights of whatever going on. But I think the number of people who want that in real life is significantly smaller. Okay. Now, where AR is really going to win, okay, I think we're already seeing that there, but where it is really going to win is in manufacturing and medicine. Okay. Because being able to have your AR glasses, being able to look at a piece of machinery and have highlights that say, this is what this is, or something along those lines while you work, or a doctor who is operating. And yes, they've got a clear view to the patient of what they're doing, but they could also see all of the vitals if they need to. They can move their eyes, right, and they can look over to the side and see, all right, the patient's vitals are still good. All right, we can keep going. Or even in like the mechanical space where you might have documentation up, the doctor may also have the surgical plan up or whatever they may need. Okay, I'm not a surgeon, okay, but being able to have that information right there without having to look away and come back and stuff, that can be really powerful. Not something you're going to see at home very often, okay? But, you know, it could be cool. And the problem with all of that type of stuff, both AR and VR, is human vision, okay? So, as an example, I have amazing distance vision, okay? My distance vision is wonderful. I wear reading glasses because I can't see crap beyond about 6 inches or so. Once it starts getting, you know, to reading level, it starts to go blurry on me. It's because I'm old. My eyes don't flex the way they used to. The lenses don't flex, and I can't focus up close anymore. So how is that going to work with an AR screen that is right in front of my eyes, but I still need to see it into the distance? Okay, I don't know. And is that something that can be worked around, worked with, work at all? I don't know. Awesome, but that's the problem I have with VR. That people with glasses trying to use VR was a problem because, one, do the VR goggles fit over your existing glasses? And even if they do, you're not looking into the distance. You're looking at a screen that is a very, very short distance from your eyes. And how do you deal with that? Okay. So I think there's some awesome potential there. I think the reality is most people are not going to go that far, right? Now, there are a lot of people that will take their tablet with an iPad or whatever tablet into them with the kitchen to either, if they're watching something in the background while they're cooking, or maybe it's got their recipe up, so they've got that handy while they cook, right? All of that makes sense. I just don't know that people are necessarily going to want to strap that to their face. Okay. I think that's exciting, but I think the reality is, just like VR, it's just not going to go as far as people expect it to. Okay. You might also see application in the military, but the military have some very specific needs. Now, when you start looking at cars, there is some fun and excitement coming to cars. You know, EVs are revolutionary in a lot of ways. Some ways it's a tech that's over 100 and something years old, but because there were electric cars a long time ago, but they all suffer the same problem, is that battery is an issue. Okay, but I love that we're seeing a different technology for cars, right? Because the internal combustion engine is basically the same. It's the same tech we've been using for 100 years, right? Now, it's got more advanced, they've got more fuel efficient, but it's still basically the same type of engine that Henry Ford was putting in the Model T. Okay, and EVs, I think, are a nice step forward. Now, I don't think they're necessarily the right step forward, okay, but they are definitely a step forward. Okay, you can make some arguments that because of the limitations in battery tech, we might have been better off pushing into hydrogen fuel cells rather than an electric battery-driven system. Okay, would it actually have been better? I don't know. You definitely have the energy density in a hydrogen fuel cell that's comparable to gasoline. Actually, I think it's better than gasoline, but it doesn't pollute the way burning gasoline does, right? You use a hydrogen fuel cell, and you get all of the oomph that you would get from gas, but your exhaust is water, right? Water vapor is technically a greenhouse gas, but it's not one that we're overly concerned with, right? Yes, that is true. Water vapor does cause some of your greenhouse heating, but it's not like carbon, or whether it's carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide or any of a number of other things. The one that make breathing in cities a problem, okay? In Atlanta, it's humid enough as it is. There's so much water you can't breathe anyway, right? But biggest mistake I ever made was going through Atlanta in July. All right, so that is cool. I really do think the auto industry in general needs to evolve beyond gasoline. Honestly, I think we all, for our general health, we need to evolve beyond gasoline. And I love EVs. I would love to have one. I can't afford one right now, which is a problem with them. But because I love the some of the independence that you can have with an EV, especially if you have um, local energy generation, right? If you have solar on your roof, something like that, that could charge your car. You don't have to go to a gas station, right? You don't have to go to a charging station. That is cool, right? It's you could live out in the middle of nowhere and know that your vehicle is going to have fuel to get you around. Now, the problem with the EVs, and it's I think it's a solvable problem. It's just the battery technology sucks. Right? Most EVs, you're just looking at a range of 250, maybe 300 miles. Some advertise like up to 320, right? There are some that go longer, like Rivian's. Their cars, I think, have a 400-mile range. Maybe one of Tesla's, and I think the Lucid has one that claims 500 miles. Okay, which is great. That's kind of what they should be shooting for. Because I've got a 2018 Honda Accord. Okay, and it's got like a 500-mile range, which is, I think, fairly typical of your modern gas-powered sedans. Okay, yeah, you step up into SUVs and you'll get a little bit less, but that 400 to 500-mile range in a car is pretty typical. So to come to an EV and drop down and now you're at a 250-mile range may or may not be an issue. Now, I live in the sticks, okay? A 250-mile range is a problem for me if I want to leave, okay? 300 miles is okay. That's at least gets me out of the mountain valley I'm in and into another city where I could potentially charge. And it gives me enough buffer that I can do it in winter, okay? Because I live in Colorado. It gets cold, it gets snowy. It means I'm driving slow over a mountain pass, which actually might be better for the battery consumption. But the cold does no favors to a battery. Okay, the EVs just do not work as well in the cold. Some do better than others, okay? Some have systems to help mitigate that, okay? But it doesn't change the reality that cold performance sucks and highway performance sucks. In town, they're great, okay? So if you are one of the millions of people that live in a metropolitan area, even modern EVs are, they'll meet your needs most of the time. It's only when you have to do something that stretches beyond that it becomes a problem. Road trips in a gasoline car go faster because it takes 5 minutes to refuel your car. Okay, an EV, if you're going from 20 to 80%, and if you're road tripping, you may want to go higher than that of your battery utilization. That part goes pretty quick, but you're still looking maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20. And if you have to wait for a charger to come free, you're going to be there forever. Now, if you've timed your stops that, okay, we're going to have dinner here, you may not notice, but hey, that's an issue. I think more than EVs, though, is going to be self-driving. Okay. Now, despite all of Tesla's claims that self-driving is right around the corner, it's not there yet. Okay. But when it gets here, that is going to be a massive change, and it's going to be awesome. Okay. And it's going to be awesome for a lot of people, really, but a couple of very specific sets of people, mostly those who are unable to drive themselves currently, whether because of vision issues or other physical issues that you just can't drive. A self-driving car is going to be amazing. The idea that you can get into a car, okay? You can be blind, get into a car, says, go to Walmart at this address. And it will take you to Walmart, and you can get out and you can go, right? That is going to be huge, okay? The other huge advancements that came because of the internet are delivery and all of those things. But are we sort of been there, done that? Right? We're talking about what's exciting in tech. Home delivery of stuff isn't it, okay? Drone delivery, maybe? But again, you have to live in a pretty dense area for that to even matter. And for those of us out here in the sticks, yeah, drone delivery is fun for all of you people in the city, but you know, drones are more likely to get shot down here than they are to actually bring me my food, right? The last thing I think is actually really exciting is, in fact, AI. Okay. Now, the current generation of AI is driven by large language models. We're not talking about independent thought, actual artificial intelligence. We're talking model-based processing. Is exciting. Okay. Don't get me wrong. There are some issues. There are definitely some ethical questions about use of art or other stuff on the internet, right? But outside of that, well, and you know, bias, which is also a thing. But aside from those types of questions, the potential to be one of the most useful new tools in a person's toolbox is definitely there. Okay. And I think just like Google changed the game when it came to finding information on the internet, right? Remember, I don't know if you're old enough to remember the early days of the internet. I certainly am, where the early public internet, you had Yahoo, which was a manually indexed, it wasn't even indexed. You submitted your website to a directory tree and whatever directory categories your site went into. Okay. Yeah. 100%. That was it, right? It wasn't as much a search engine, right? And then you had things like Ask Jeeves and Alta Vista, and all of that died when Google showed up on the scene and changed the landscape forever. I think AI, as we have it now, is changing the landscape because the reality is it is significantly faster to find information you're looking for using tools like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Copilot or whatever, okay? But beyond that, we're finding out as a tech community that AI is going to be immensely helpful for a lot of things, okay? Because one of the things these models are very good at is correlating data. All right. They are very good at that. And so you can really tap that in for some amazing things, right? Now you could do something really simple with something like Grammarly that uses language models to help fix your grammar, right? And I was just at a conference for tech people in higher ed in Colorado, which is obviously a very small group, but still, excellent conference. And they're talking about some English as a second language students in college. They're having to write papers about whatever it is they're writing papers on. And so what they're finding is that some of these papers are triggering the plagiarism or whatever checks. But what they're finding is the students weren't plagiarizing. They're writing the paper in Spanish, for example, dumping it through a translator, and then turning that in so that they would turn in the English translation. But of course, those translations are not always great. So washing that through Grammarly fixes the grammar, and then they can turn it in. The problem these students have is not one of comprehension, it's one of translation. AI can help with that, okay? So there's some good things there. I'll get into a few more of those types of things, but to get back to the correlation point, things like, turns out a lot of AI, there are AIs that is proving to be better at diagnosing health issues than human doctors. Okay. That's not to say they're perfect, but neither is Dr. Jones down the street. Okay. So would I love them to be perfect? Absolutely. But I don't want to have perfect be the enemy of better. Right. So, that could be amazing help. Right. They're seeing a lot of benefits from in other industries. Okay. Using AI to, I don't know, I've said to just bring the data together, right? To help understand the vast swaths of data. Now, what does that look like at home? Honestly, I think you'll see it not in the direct usage, but in the indirect usage. Okay. I mean, you're already seeing ads for companies that we use AI on the back end, so your experience is better. Right? Was it Salesforce or somebody I keep seeing all these ads for? Or yeah, if you got your ticket through this company and it found the best flights and the best hotels stuff all for you faster than you would do it by hand. Okay. That sort of experience is what's going to come to people at home, and they may never even realize what's happening on the back end. And sometimes the best technology is invisible. It's the technology you use that makes your life better, but you don't have to think about it. And I think what we're going to see from AI is a lot of benefit in those types of things. Okay. There are a couple of other places that AI is going to be a huge accessibility boon, because we're already seeing it in some cases. You see it if you're in an online meeting, like with Google Meets or Zoom or something, or even on YouTube. I use it when I stream. I've got it turned on, is that you get automated and automatic closed captions. So if you go into the YouTube video for this podcast at Music Free Static, I don't write my own transcripts, okay? Because I admit it, I'm lazy. I let Google do that. And YouTube generates a pretty good transcript. Is it perfect? No. But it's pretty good, and it's getting better. Think of the number of live performances that we see, whether it's stream or it's, even if it's not live, it's like a YouTube video, just like this one. Somebody records it in their living room, and if they don't have the time or the funds to write out the transcript every time, but they can use an AI, right, to do that text to speech and do it very, very well. That is huge. That is huge for the hearing impaired community, and for the vision impaired community. The idea that we could use AI to do natural narration for books, for audiobooks, right? Now, I love Audible and the services that have grown up around Audible for audiobooks, right? With the idea that, hey, one, just a regular person, I spend enough time in the car, right, that having an audiobook is great. I was talking to somebody at that conference I was just talking about. He regularly has to drive up and down the Front Range, and it's about a 7-hour trip, I think he was saying. So he gets an audiobook and sets it. I think he often will turn it up to 1.5 speed, maybe. So it fits in that 7 hours where he can listen to an entire book on that trip. Okay, that's great. And for so many more books, there are good audio versions available. But what about the others? Right? If you want to read Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, you're not going to have any issues at all. Okay? But if you're wanting to read a book that's a little bit more obscure, where it's just not economical to pay somebody to actually read the book, to make an audiobook available. Right now, those books might as well not exist because there's no way to read them. Or if you can, right, you do the traditional text-to-speech where it is monotonous and robotic, and it's better than nothing. But I've listened to a couple of things, even just articles I've listened to read that way, and it sucks. Okay, it's not great. Better than nothing, but not great. I guess some of those live closed captions kind of fall into that too, I suppose. But so how do we make the wealth of books that we have available to those who are vision impaired? We can use AI with a more natural narrating ability to narrate and generate audiobooks so that information can be available. That is huge. That is an amazing step forward. And if you don't have vision problems, you may not realize how big a benefit this is going to be for some people. Now, yes, there are definitely people, but what about the actors? They're not going to get paid for these books anyway, right? Because that's the thing, right? I don't necessarily want to replace, voice actors, voice performers who are reading these audiobooks, okay? Because still, I think a human performance is going to be better than an AI performance. But you've got to pay the actor for their time. And if you're not going to get enough sales of your book to pay the actor for their time, it doesn't make sense to pay the actor. I mean, it's just basic. It's just basic economics. Okay. Now there are some authors, right? I like. I read the book "Just Stab Me Now" by Jill Barup. Okay. It's definitely not a New York Times bestseller. It's not a book that's going to walk off the shelves everywhere. I think it's a fun book. Okay, I'm glad she wrote it. I enjoyed it. But she just put out a video. She's made $150,000 off the book. Okay, which is great. Good for her. That's awesome. She was able to pay off her mortgage, all that good stuff. But an audiobook is expensive, right? So she's performing it herself, okay? Which is fine. She did the original shorts that she based the book on anyway, right? And there are some authors that are doing that. It's still expensive for all the studio time and actually all the recording and making sure everything works. It is consistent and all of that stuff. You don't have volume jumps between chapters or between sentences because you've had to re-record. Right? You don't have to worry about that. You can, for some of these books, especially older books, being able to throw an AI, a natural, quote unquote, natural AI at a book and have it read it is going to be huge. So yeah, that's exciting. Okay. The accessibility of full self-driving cars and AI for closed captions and natural reading of text is going to be huge. Okay. And I think it already is. We just haven't quite crossed that threshold yet. That is going to be amazing. Okay. So there are some great things coming. It's just, I don't think we're there yet. But I think that's where the excitement is. The excitement is not the phones or the computers or the watches. What's really exciting is the tools that will actually make the next step of awesome usability. And productivity gets overused potentially, but yeah, if we can spend less time doing quote unquote work, so we can spend more time doing the things we love and we're passionate about, I think that's going to be a win for a lot of people. So, yeah, it's awesome. And I've gone way long, but man, I get passionate about some of the stuff that's really cool. So let me know what you think. Where you think, or what you think the next big thing for tech at home is going to be, and drop it in the comments. And until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Gaming, or Music Free Static. Music Free Gaming is my gaming streams. You can watch those too. But this is Music Free Static, signing off.